All right, so we're going to continue with the Google to Graph assignment. You guys already did part 1, where you looked at the data from Mythbusters Talking to Plants. You made a bar graph and labeled the different axes, and the title, we changed the title for that. So now we're going to move on to the line graph example, which is going to be what you're going to use for your heart rate lab. I think, actually, that might be a bar graph because we're using different methods and comparing them. Comparing versus looking at a change. Okay, so it says examine the data table below. For each table, identify each of the information listed, and then use Google Sheets to create a proper graph to represent your data. So when you're looking at this, it says a scientist has several samples of an unknown substance and need to identify it using the density. So you guys have learned before, but just as a refresher, the equation for density is mass divided by volume. Okay, so with these questions here, what is the independent variable in this scenario? Remember, what is the thing we are changing, the thing we control? And we can control the size of the substance, so we can get bigger pieces of that substance. We can't change the atoms inside, how many atoms there are, which is like what mass is. Mass is how much stuff is packed in there. So we can't control the atoms, but we can control the size of our substance, our whatever that is. So because this is what we can control, that'll be the independent variable. So what is the independent variable in this scenario? I'm going to change the color just because I can. We can control the size of the substance, so I can get bigger or smaller ones. So volume is the independent variable, okay? And then what is the dependent variable in this scenario? So what is the thing that's going to change because of the sizes? Well, how many atoms and stuff are inside there? So the mass is what we are measuring for each sized object. Okay? What type of graph will you create for this and why? We're going to create a scatter plot. A scatter plot, okay, with a line of best fit. Okay, so, and the reason that is, that's kind of like a type of line graph, because we're looking at a change. If I change the size here, how does that affect the mass? That's what we're looking at with this problem, okay? So we're going to take our data, which is already posted in here. So you should have this video version using Google to Graph. And if you don't have that open yet, go ahead and pause me and go into your Google Drive, and you can look for, hopefully you saved it somehow. Either you can go to Recents and pull it up, or you can look for, I don't know, Google Graphing. I don't know if it'll pop up. It all depends if you change this, okay? So I think if you put Google Graphing, it should pop up, okay? Then down at the bottom here, you have a little tick here. I know that this is covering it up, but you have volume versus mass right here. So this data is what we have in this table. I already put it over there for you. So you don't have to worry about it, but we are going to make a graph here. So let's highlight, and then we're going to insert chart. Remember, there's 2 ways you can do that. You can push insert and click on this little like bar graph thing here. I'm going to click on it over here because it's a little bit easier. And this already knew, like, oh, hey, we want a scatter plot. That's going to be the best type. It has our independent variable as volume, which is always on the x-axis, And mass, which is the dependent variable, is always going to be on the y-axis, all right? And it has it beautifully spaced out. So I think it's pretty much ready to go, except we need to put a trend line in there. So please follow along as I add a trend line. So go customize. You're going to go to customize. You're going to push series. And then down here, it has a button called trend line. We're going to click that. It is linear. We want to keep it there. You can change the line color if you want. I don't care. But you do need a label, which we're going to use the equation. Okay, so right there is the equation to figure out what the slope is. It's already figuring it out for us. And there she be. Okay, so again, you're going to copy paste this into your data table. Remember, if you forget how I got this, you can always rewind or pause and do it with me that way. Remember to take a screenshot. You're going to push Control, Shift, and then up at the top, there's a box with 2 lines behind it. And when you do that, it'll make your screen all dark like this. You'll click and drag. And when you release, a little box will come up at the bottom here that says Copy to Clipboard. You're going to copy it to Clipboard. I don't have that, so because I'm on my computer. So I pasted our graph here. This is what it should look like. If it doesn't look like this, something is wrong. Okay. It says, what is the slope of your trend line? And be sure to include units. So in Google Sheets, you can click Review or click View only in the upper right of the chart and then hover over the trend line to give you the equation y equals mxb. So I don't know what this is talking about. We already put in that equation, right? So y equals mx plus b, you have y equals, this is your m, that's the x, plus b, that grossness. So your slope is 11.3, okay? So 11.3 is the slope. And that is the units for that. Remember, slope is rise over run. So if it's rise over run or y over x, change in y over change in x, you're going to take the units here, grams, divided by the change in x, which would be milliliters. Those are your units. So there you go. That's how you do that. We're going to take some notes on slope before we do this next part. So finish up this, get this set up, and then if you have questions, I will be able to answer it then. Okay?